You are the most powerful person in the entire empire. Your word is law. Thousands bow when you enter a room. Armies march on your command. You own palaces, treasure, and land as far as anyone can see. You are also 7 years old, and you would really like to go and play now. This is the strange, dangerous, deeply unfun world of the Child King. A kid handed the most powerful job on earth before he's old enough to tie his shoes. It sounds like the ultimate fantasy. Be a king, but tiny. In reality, it was one of the most precarious positions a person could be born into. Today we find out why it sucked to be a king before you turn 10. On this channel, we take the worst lives in history and ask one simple question. How bad was it, really? And the Child King is fascinating because on paper, it looks like you won the lottery of existence. You're royalty. You're the ruler. Everything is yours. But here's the twist that runs through this entire story. Being a Child King meant you had all the power and none of the control. You were the most important person in the kingdom and also the most helpless. You wore the crown, but other people's hands were on the strings. And it happened constantly throughout history. Kings died. Of illness, of war, of assassination, of just bad luck. And they didn't always have a grown-up heir ready to take over. Sometimes the only heir was a small child. And so, again and again, across empires all over the world, a little kid got put on a giant throne, handed a title bigger than he could understand, and dropped into a snake pit of adults who all wanted something from him. So let's walk through exactly why that was such a nightmare. Let's start with the central, almost comical problem. You're a king who can't actually do the job. You're, say, 6. You can barely read. You don't understand taxes, armies, law, or diplomacy. Any of the complicated things running an empire requires. Nobody expects you to. You're a child. But the empire still needs running. Decisions still need making. Wars still need fighting. Money still needs collecting. So who runs things while the king is busy losing his baby teeth? Somebody else. This is the regent, an adult, often a relative, a powerful noble, or the queen mother, who rules on the child's behalf until he comes of age. On paper, the regent is just a caretaker, keeping the throne warm. In reality, the regent holds the actual power. They make the decisions, command the armies, control the treasury, and sign things in your name. And here's the problem with that. Power is the most addictive thing in the world. You hand someone the keys to an empire and say, just hold this for 10 years until the kid grows up. How many people do you think hand that back cheerfully? Some regents were loyal and protected the child. But many looked at that little king and saw not a person to protect, but an obstacle. A temporary inconvenience between them and total power. And that is a terrifying thing to be when you're 7 years old. An inconvenience to the most powerful adult here. So let's talk about the people surrounding you, because every single one of them wants something. When you're a Child King, you are the single most valuable game piece in the entire kingdom. Whoever controls you, controls everything. Speak through you, and your word is law, because legally, it's the king speaking. So the race is on. Nobles, advisors, relatives, generals. They aren't competing to help you. They're competing to control you. Think about what that means for your daily life. The people who feed you, teach you, advise you, and tuck you in at night may not have your interests at heart at all. They might be trying to shape you, isolate you from rivals, fill your head with their version of things, and make sure that when you do start forming opinions, those opinions are convenient for them. You can't trust your tutor. He might be someone's man. You can't trust your advisors. They have factions. You might not even be able to trust your own family, because in a lot of royal courts, family was exactly where the danger came from. An ambitious uncle, a scheming cousin, a stepmother protecting her own son's claim. These weren't movie villains. They were a regular feature of court life. Imagine being a small child and slowly realizing that the warmth around you might be performance. That the people bowing to you are measuring you. That your value to almost everyone is not you, but the crown on your head. That's a lonely, frightening way to grow up. And a lot of Child Kings grew up exactly like that. But a Child King? A child is fragile. A child can be controlled, sidelined, or, if someone is ruthless enough, removed entirely so that a more convenient heir takes the throne. Throughout history, child rulers had an alarming tendency not to make it to adulthood. Some died of natural causes, Childhood was dangerous for everyone back then. But others died in ways that were a little too convenient for somebody. Mysterious illnesses, accidents, quiet disappearances, heirs who simply vanished from the story and were never heard from again. And even if no one was actively trying to harm you, you were a magnet for everyone else's wars. Other kingdoms looked at a child on the throne and thought, strike now. A child king meant instability, and instability invited invasion, rebellion, and power grabs. So your kingdom became more dangerous the moment you inherited it, through no fault of your own, because your only crime was being small. You didn't do anything. You were just born into the wrong chair at the wrong time. Let's talk about something quieter but genuinely sad. You never really got a childhood. A normal kid got to play, to mess up, to be unimportant. You didn't. From the moment the crown landed on your head, you were a public symbol. Every move watched, every word noted. Surrounded constantly by adults, ceremony, and expectations. You couldn't just be a clumsy, silly, ordinary kid. You were the living embodiment of an empire, and people treated you like one. And the education was relentless. A future ruler had to be molded. Languages, statecraft, religion, warfare, court etiquette, crammed into a child who'd rather be doing anything else. The pressure to become worthy of the throne started early and never let up. Then there's the strangest part of all, the loneliness of being worshipped. Everyone treats you as special, elevated, almost divine, and yet you have no equals, no real friends, no one who relates to you as just a person. You're surrounded by people every hour of the day, and still, in a deep way, completely alone. It's a particular kind of sad, to have everything and to have no one. So let's say you beat the odds. You dodged the scheming, survived the accidents, outlasted the wars, and made it to adulthood. Congratulations. Now comes a whole new problem. Because remember that regent? The adult who's been running everything in your name for a decade, sitting in the seat of real power, getting very comfortable. Now the rightful king is grown up and would quite like his empire back, thank you. That handover almost never went smoothly. Sometimes the young king had to fight, politically or literally, to take the power that was legally his all along. The very people who protected him as a child could become his rivals the moment he tried to actually rule. And a young, inexperienced ruler surrounded by people who'd held power for years was at a serious disadvantage. Some child kings grew into strong, capable rulers and pulled it off. Others spent their whole reign as figureheads, never truly in command. And some never got the chance to find out because they didn't survive long enough. So even the happy ending just dropped you into the next fight. The job never stopped being a trap. It just changed shape as you grew. So, how bad was it to be a king before you turned 10? You had absolute power and absolutely no control. You were the most important person in the empire and the most expendable game piece in it at the same time. The adults around you saw a crown, not a child. Your own family could be your greatest danger. You were a target for assassins, a magnet for invasions, and a prize for whoever could grab the strings. You never got to play, never got a real friend, never got to just be a kid. And if you survived all of it, you got to fight all over again to claim the power that was yours from the start. You were handed the biggest job in the world before you were old enough to understand what a job even was. And everyone called you lucky. So the next time you see a little kid being a chaotic, carefree, gloriously unimportant little kid, be glad for them. Because somewhere in history, a kid exactly that age was sitting on a cold throne, in a crown too big for him, surrounded by smiling adults, quietly realizing that not one of them was really on his side. If you enjoyed feeling sorry for the world's most powerful 7-year-old, you know what to do. Subscribe, and be grateful nobody handed you an empire before you could spell it.